Hello, guys. We're live. We're live. We're live. So it's Mr. Sci-Fi live stream. I've said that I'll be doing a live stream every Wednesday during the Kickstarter campaign. Please throw money our way. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. It's much appreciated. So I'm going to be doing this for an hour or so, depending on if people come and want to ask questions and want to know what I'm doing. Lots happening as ever. Um, and I'm here to entertain questions about my interesting and strange journey through this dimension. And someone was just talking in the interview I just did about Hour 25, which is a very influential science fiction radio show here in Los Angeles, hosted by Mike Hodel and Terry Hodel and Mitchell Harding under the pseudonym of John Henry Thong. And it was a very influential show in terms of my life. It was an interview show, and I first heard it when I was, I think, 15 or 16, and it was the first time I'd ever heard science fiction writers interviewed, and it was really a revelation. It led directly to me going to Clarion, which was again just a life changing experience, and here I am. So my day is filled with wonder and amazement. Someone ran into the Mr. Sci-Fi mobile, by the way, and totaled it. So if anyone has recommendations for good cars I can get, I'm thinking maybe a Prius, maybe a Tesla, maybe a Honda Accord, or a Toyota Camry. Prefer not to buy new, but this is in this world, the mundane world. So we needn't talk more about that. Meantime, I've been working on Great Solar War with Elaine. We're writing the script. It's coming out great. We have a cast sheet that shows all of our actors, which is a really cool thing. I'll show you this. We'll be sending out to our actors shortly. But this is our cast, and let's see right there. This is our cast, and there are a wide variety of people, and really cool and wonderful actors, and can't wait. And this, of course, is our poster for Great Solar War, which is the next 2-hour Space Command episode. There we go. There. And it has Bob Picardo, and you can see all these wonderful people in it. Doug Jones, Ethan McDowell. So I mean, it's just life is certainly filled with adventure and excitement. We're designing new aliens. I'm going to Comic Con tomorrow on the train. Check me out there. We're going to be doing a signing and screening and all of that stuff, and just keeps going. It's really fun to you know have this wonderful journey. Hey, Mark, it's Mark Longo. Hello, Mark Longo. Good to see you. I've known Mark Longo for many a year, and I will entertain your questions and comments and so forth. Um, it's it's funny because I really have pursued my interests over all these years, and it's been very gratifying because for me, the television screen is like the mirror that Alice passed through, and Alice through the looking glass, where it's permeable, and I get to be part of the world on the other side of the glass, and it's really really cool. So but right now what we're doing is we're getting ready to shoot Great Solar War. More of it. We're getting ready to shoot more of Elaine's Voiceless Roar, or When the Voiceless Roar. We're still figuring out the title. Hi, Liebchen. Good to see you. And feel free to ask questions at any point because I'm here to raise money for our Kickstarter campaign. Please spread the word. Please throw money our way. I want to hit 50 grand or ideally 100 grand. It all goes to Space Command and making those episodes. And we're also selling shares for 7,500 bucks each in Space Command and 105,000 in the Showrunners Network. So that's the new project, the 6 series and a movie, including Space Command and Magic Time and a new Serling series I'm hoping to do, and shows I'm doing with the creators of Farscape and Alien Nation and Sequest and Cult and Defiance and The Expanse. Neat stuff. Oh, thank you. Thank you for skipping Biden's farewell speech. Yeah, we know he's saying farewell and he's going. So but good for him. I mean, it really has invigorated the campaign. And whether you're a Trump supporter or a Kamala supporter, it's going to be more of a horse race, and it's going to have a lot more energy to it, and that's a good thing. And I like democracy. I like the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and I'm for everyone having their right to vote because that is America, and we do not throw our reporters into prison and so forth. We do not shoot our protesters with exceptions. I mean, it's like we want it that way. We don't want a dictatorship. Anyway, I don't mean to veer into politics, but I think any fan of Star Trek or Star Wars should feel democracy is a good thing and well worth fighting for. So, and Biden, it's a great honor. It's very honorable for him to step down. I was rooting for him to stay in, but I understand why he stepped down because it takes a whole bunch of targets off the grid, so they can't attack the presidential candidate for his advanced age or failing mental abilities or any of that. And the interesting thing with Kamala Harris is if they attack her race or her background, that's a bad bad thing. So what's happening with the rest of the Space Command series? Do you still have no network interest yet? That's been how many decades now? Laughing out loud. Well, okay, so here's the answer to all of that. Whew, where to start? Okay. My responsibility is to make Space Command and make it as good as I can and get it out to the world and share it with my friends and my fans and my audience. I am not responsible for what the networks choose to do or don't choose to do. But that said, we are, of course, trying to get them to become our partners in various things. You can now rent and purchase Space Command Redemption, our first 2 hour story, on Amazon Prime and on Google Play, and you can watch it for free on Tubi, ad supported. And, that's a start. We've got a distributor, for God's sake. I just got a check in the mail from them. So, not a huge check, but a check. And so the plan with Space Command is, yes, we are going to shoot all 12 hours of the first season. We have written of the next few 2 hour episodes. We've written Great Solar War, and the next one after that, Empire, which will have Armin Shimmerman and Christina Moses and Aaron Gaffey and many other wonderful actors in it, Ethan Phillips. And then after that is the final episode, the final 2 hour episode, which is Mousetrap. So our plan is to shoot all of that this year. So it's all about cash flow. So if you buy Space Command shares or Showrunners Network shares or help us win our Kickstarter campaign, it's all or nothing. If we don't hit our goal, it all goes away. But yes, with Space Command, it's now out in the world. People can watch it. And also, Space Command Forgiveness, which we're now in post production on, you can watch the entire rough cut right here on Mr. Sci-Fi. I just posted it, which is a ballsy thing to do. But what I found is that transparency is and authenticity is what is our brand. So if people want to watch the rough cut, want to see what we're up to, want to see how the process works, they're welcome to. And but in terms of the networks and studios, yes, it would be great to have them as our partners for distribution and for putting in publicity money. It's very expensive to promote things, but I'm not. I don't spend my days and nights worrying about those things because thanks to Mr. Sci-Fi, thanks to the World Wide Web, we can reach millions of people either way. So I'm not feeling at all, creatively stifled. Now, Mark Lungo says, time for a new Mr. Politics episode. Yes, for those who don't know, Mr. Sci-Fi has an additional people ask me on Mr. Sci-Fi not to talk about politics, and generally I try not to. So I came up with another YouTube channel called Mr. Politics, and every now and then I'll talk about my political views. I'm so glad that there's new energy in the presidential race. I do not want. Look, I'll say this: I don't want Trump to win. I don't want a dictatorship. I don't want to have people's rights taken away. That's not what I'm about at all. So so there you go. So let's see. Independence Day 3 predictions. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12, and 13. Okay, we'll wait for what else is there. I guess you're going to be typing those in, Victor. So let's see what comes up. But yes, but many happy, exciting things are happening. I mean, Ethan McDowell, we're flying him in on the 27th for our great scene on the 2-story spaceship set, the command bridge, Fleet Commander Kemmer's ship. We are firming up our deals with our various actors, getting all that stuff nailed down, all the SAG contracts, all the stuff you have to do. You can't not talk politics living in this world. Well, here's the way it works, and certainly Gene Roddenberry was political, certainly Rod Serling was political, but by removing their stories from the issues of the day, it makes it more universal. So you can watch Monsters of on Maple Street with people, and dealing with mass hysteria, and it can be for any time, any generation, any era, because that's a common human, it's a common act of human nature. But But the one time he puts Khrushchev in an episode, it's incredibly dated. That's an episode called The Whole Truth if you ever want to see it. But it's so I like to speak in using science fiction as my language generally. Though Elaine and I, if you were a fly on the wall in our place, you would in the Zickery Mansion, you would definitely hear us opine about many, 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 many things. But suffice it to say that we are inclusive, and we like variety and kinds of people. And I don't think anyone should. I don't think we should have an official religion, a government religion. I don't think we should have. I mean, the Constitution says it pretty clearly, guys. So anyway, beyond that, anyone who wants to play a role in Space Command, just go to our Kickstarter campaign, belly up to the bar, throw some money our way, and we're shooting the 10th and 11th of August, but it's a smaller scene with just 2 actors, and then the big shoot is the 27th. If we get more money in, I can shoot beyond that. We do it month to month, and the more we're shooting, the better I like it, because the sooner everything gets done. So that's really cool. What's your opinion on 28 Weeks Later? I didn't like it as well as 28 Days Later. Quiet Place Part 2. I don't like the Quiet Place movies because I think it's a ridiculous premise. Alone in the Dark. I don't remember that one. And Aquaman. I don't even know if I saw that, though. All those Marvel movies are starting to blur. But that's not the Aquaman I grew up with, I'll tell you. The UK just finally got its grumps back in government. Yes, I agree. It's been dismaying to see what Brexit passing was really dismaying, because there was no projection that they could offer in the real world where England would benefit from removing itself from the EU financially. It was always going to be a disaster no matter what, and they were just lied to. I mean, again, I wish there was a way to make it illegal for politicians to lie to the public, because it's appalling, because people act on what they believe to be true. And if it's one thing to have an opinion about the truth, that's fine. One can say, well, there's this or there's that, but it's based on what we all like. For instance, like I took a shot at Trump, that was real, and you can have an opinion about that, or opinion about someone's ear getting bloodied, but that's reality. That's objective reality, at least as far as we can tell. But when you start having people knowingly lie about reality, then it's a problem. And so when Boris Johnson was going around saying that Brexit would, removing themselves from Brexit would like be a bonus for the health, UK health and all that, it was lies. Okay, what's your opinion on Avengers: Age of Ultron? It was okay. Avengers: Endgame? It was okay. Avengers: Infinity War? It was okay. Batman v Superman? I mean, I'm not a huge superhero movie buff. I'm glad they're popular. Some of them I like better than other ones. I thought the Wolverine one with Hugh Jackman that was separate with Patrick Stewart, and it was really, really good. Whatever the hell that was called. But I don't just say, oh, I mean, the movie I'm looking forward to is Alien Romulus. The movie I enjoyed recently was Furiosa. I just posted Mr. Sci-Fi video about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which I thought was really fairly limp. You don't care about England as you live in Scotland. Well, that's great. Scotland, there's a lot to be said about Scotland. I went to the Edinburgh Festival some years ago and really, really loved it. And Scotland has a lot to recommend it, except it's cold, 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 cold. So I live here in LA, where it's summer every day. But of course, that's going to get worse with global warming. So hopefully people will start doing stuff about it. If anyone has a Tesla, let me know if you like it, because I was thinking of possibly getting one. But I think Elon Musk has really gone off the deep end. I mean, geez Louise, he just came out again saying his son was dead to him because he became trans, and it's like, oh no, Jesus, I want to love what Elon Musk is doing, the electric cars, solar power, landing on Mars, but it's like, stop becoming more and more of a weirdo. So anyway, I don't know. I was planning to write him a letter, but now he's gotten so extreme. Yikes, 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 yikes. So but that's neither here nor there. So but in terms of what I'm up to, just chomping at the bit to film more and more and more. There's a movie I've come up with about Rod Serling, an adventure film with him as sort of an action hero that I'm running by the Serling family right now. We'll see what happens. There's a friend of mine who produced The Pope's Exorcist, and which was a big hit. Not a great movie, but a big hit. And we'll see if we can pull this thing together. It'd be very fun. I think I've mentioned that the actor who I would like to play Rod Serling is Sam Rockwell. I think he'd be just terrific. He's great because he can do physicality, he can do humor. He's just a wonderful actor. So let's see. I liked Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica, Blood and Chrome. I think they miscast the Edward James Olmos as a young man. With they had an actor from one of the other ones that was much better. I don't know why they didn't get that guy. I thought the Winter Soldier was okay. Chaos Walking, I never saw. Cover Your Eyes, I didn't see. Doctor Strange was okay, but I thought he was doing the same gag as Iron Man. It was like, oh, he's like a rich guy who's kind of snippy and sarcastic. It was, I thought they were just kind of going over old territory, So, how did you get into writing for cartoons like He-Man, and what was your process? Well, it's fascinating because when I decided I would become a writer, when I sold my first short story at 19 to Damon Knight when I was at Clarion, uh, I knew from when I was a teenager that I wanted to be a writer producer in TV. I wanted to work on things like Star Trek, and so I grew up enjoying cartoons. I never, for instance, Rocky and Bullwinkle and Bugs Bunny. I loved all that stuff, and but I wasn't a devotee. I wasn't, crazy about cartoons where I wanted to write them. That was never an ambition of mine. And whereas people like Paul Dini, they loved, Tex Avery and all that stuff. Fine. But what happened was I knew I wanted to be writing in TV. I knew I wanted to be writing for shows like Star Trek. And when I got back to finish my art degree after going to Clarion, I went back to finish 2 years on my art degree at UCLA. I took a writing class with Theodore Sturgeon, and his teaching assistant was another Clarion graduate from '72, 3 years earlier than me, named Michael Reeves. And Michael and I became fast friends. So as soon as I graduated college, Elaine and I got married, June 25th, 1977, and I started writing The Twilight Zone Companion to learn how to write and produce television. But also, Michael Reeves, in addition to writing books and short stories, was also writing for animation. And he asked me if I'd like to collaborate on a Space Ghost episode. And I said, sure, because I thought any way into TV is a way in. And I was a fan of those characters. I mean, I grew up watching them. So I co-wrote an episode of what was called Space Stars with Space Ghost. And then Smurfs was starting up, so Michael and I co-wrote one of those. And by then it was very clear I could write them on my own. So while I was writing The Twilight Zone Companion, I was also writing animation. So I rose very quickly in animation. What they paid me tripled, and so that was terrific. And I could earn 100,000 a year writing animation back in the late '70s, early '80s, which was really good earning. And I wrote for all the major companies, Hanna-Barbera and DiC and Marvel and uh, Ruby Spears and so forth. And ultimately, I was able to write a spec feature, live action feature that sold, got me a pilot deal with NBC. I was hired to develop Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, and then I was off and running in live action. But by the time I worked in animation, first of all, I always brought my A game. I was never slumming. I was never condescending to the material. I always was finding. Someone asked if I was writing for the child in the audience, and I said, no, I'm writing for the child in myself. So I was always looking to entertain myself, as I still do. And uh, and I learned how to write on deadline. I learned how to write for specific character voice, and I learned how to write jokes. I learned how to write dramatic plots. I learned how to write action and pace my scripts. I learned how to write it on a specific page count. They could say it needs to be 55 pages, and I would turn in a 55-page script. I still have that skill, and it was a very good way to learn my craft before I then jumped over to live action. Live action has all of those requirements, but it also has other requirements related to dealing with production. See, it's like so there's certain things that in live action you need to know as well, working with actors and working with sets and props and editing and all that stuff. Let's see, I've gotten a little behind. Uh, and when you say what was my process, originally we were typing on typewriters, but then when computers came in with K-Pro 2s, we switched to those, and everything sped up. I mean, you had to turn in a script. You had to write a script in a week. You had to turn in a rewrite essentially overnight. It just became more. You just had to stay up with the technology. Um, Deadly accidents have happened because of Tesla's features working correctly. That's true. Absolutely, I agree. Did you see Space Above and Beyond? I really enjoyed it. Didn't get another season. If you saw it, what did you think? Yeah, well, I haven't seen the whole show. I've seen some of it and I liked it, but it was before 9/11, and I think a show that was that militaristic was sort of before its time. You know, Galactica was able to comment very much on the aftermath of 9/11. Space Above and Beyond was sort of like during a period when America wasn't at war, and so I think it felt a little off. It wasn't resonating with the culture as well, I don't think. So, but it only lasted a year. It was expensive, and they canceled it. What they really should have done with that and with uh, Firefly is, they should have taken them off the Fox network and put them on FX or something, a cable network, and they could still be running. But they didn't think that way. It's very hard to get a science fiction franchise going, particularly nowadays when things are so. There's a show this week, and then there's a new show next week, and then there's a new show next week, and there's so much content just being disgorged that it's very hard for anything to get traction. I mean, Stranger Things, that kind of bang hit a nerve because so many people had grown up with Spielberg movies and so forth and had a nostalgia factor, and it was different. But a lot of shows that in the old days would have gained a fan following, they can't get enough traction. They can't get enough momentum going. Let's see. What's your opinion on Don't Look Up? I like Don't Look Up a lot. I thought it was terrific. Elysium I thought was very good. Ender's Game I thought was okay. I have stuff from that movie. I mean, in our studio. Evolution, it was a misfire for me. Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, I haven't seen, even though Doug Jones is the Silver Surfer. Feast 2, Sloppy Seconds, I have no idea what that is. How was working with Lou Scheimer? He was fine. I didn't really deal with him on a day-to-day basis because I was never in-house at Filmation. Arthur Nadell was sort of the showrunner, story editor, producer kind of guy that I dealt directly with. It was fun writing for. Michael Reeves and I really loved writing Black Star. We wrote most of those episodes. Then that led into He-Man, which I didn't like as well because it was more toy-driven, Mattel-driven, more kind of like a factory assembly line. I mean, I still wrote episodes that were meaningful to me, but Black Star was a lot more fun. I really enjoyed writing for Black Star. Let's see. Uh, Ranked alien invasion movies from worst to best. I'm going to add the Future War on Alien Invasion movie montage and Alien Invasion movie. Yes. So yeah, and I love alien invasion movies. Independence Day I like a lot, despite other people's objections, which I certainly understand. Uh, let's see, Sam Rockwell was great in The Bad Guys. Yes, yes. I mean, it's like I've seen him. He's so great in everything. I mean, even in Galaxy Quest, he's terrific. And then the one about the little kid and the Nazi during World War II, whatever the name of that was. I'm drawing a blank on it right now. But phenomenal actor. I don't know how old he is. I'll have to check. But the thing I'm proposing is Rod after Twilight Zone. Rod around when he's around 40 or so. So but I mean, it's there's so many phenomenal things, and uh, basically anything that I want to do, I can do if I do it through my own studio. This project would be a much bigger. This would be a major studio film. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, you know, it's not a tragedy to me. I haven't written the script. With the things that I'm actually going to make, I write the script first. So Fugitive Space is written. Magic Time, the script is written. Sweet Haven, the script is written. So forth. You know, so we'll see. But now it's just a matter of how much money I can raise and how quick I can make stuff. And money just is what allows me to do those things. So, but if people have questions, just keep throwing them at me, and I'll keep doing my best. But it's so fun though to get all of these spaceship consoles wired up with working data screens and all that, because when that two-story set is put together, it's going to look great. It is going to be so fun. And if anyone wants to come out to the studio on August 27th, and it'll be a very fun day. It'll be a very fun day. And Captain Kemmer will be Fleet Commander Kemmer, and he's going to have a beard and mustache, and that'll be swell. And we'll see how it all progresses. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see what I think. Star Wars: A New Hope, of course, is iconic. King of the Planet, the new Planet of the Apes movies are okay, but there's something about the original Planet of the Apes, the first one, the Charlton Heston one, that just has it's iconic. It's the one, and Charlton Heston was such a great science fiction actor, from Soylent Green and Omega Man. I just love that. I think he was a wonderful actor for all of his limitations as a person. So, but let's see if I can tell you some other cool things. Um, I, it's like it's going to be fun to go to Comic Con. What I tend to do at Comic Con is I walk the dealer's room a lot. I look for new and interesting things. I hire people who might be designers or artists. I read through the program book very, very carefully because I want to go to things that are about subjects that interest me or things that I can learn about. Um, it's tiring. Comic Con is definitely tiring, but I still have to finish the Great Solar War script. We're about 20 pages away from being done. Not far. I've been watching some of the old '80s stuff, and do come across your name quite a lot, which leaves me thinking: is there any show you haven't written for? I would have liked to have written a lot more for Star Trek: The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. But there weren't a lot of shows that I missed out on. I'm glad. I look back at my filmography and I'm proud of it, and I'm very glad that I was there at the right time because nowadays it'd be a lot harder to write for that many different shows. It would have been fun possibly to write for X Files. I wish I could have written for Doctor Who. But Neil Gaiman recommended me to Doctor Who, and for some reason they never they weren't open to it very particularly. I don't know why that was. So, I mean, people often assume that if I just call anywhere, that's like Mark Zickley's calling. Oh, we'll have him in for a meeting. No, there's the arrogance and um, cluelessness of a lot of Hollywood is just astonishing. Just astonishing. Let's see. Ranking alien invasion movies. Okay, are there any shows you'd have given anything to write for? Um, I wish they let me work on the new Star Trek shows, particularly Strange New Worlds, because I think I could improve them, make them better. But at this stage, since I have such creative freedom, I don't spend my days in longing. I spend my days in creative excitement and joy. And it's so fun because what I'm doing uses so many different abilities that I have. So it's not just writing. It's not just putting together the storylines or the characters. It's also the sets. Like I'll buy a set and I'll say, well, we can do this to this and add this piece and make this work. Or we're talking about costume designs, and you know, it's very, very fun. I'm engaged in a lot of ways, and I really love that. Um, but let's see. I mean, the original Twilight Zone, but I wasn't old enough for that. And what else? Let me think for a second here. No, it's kind of like I don't, you know, I don't have longing in that way. I feel pretty well realized as a creative entity. Let's see. Is there any kind of alien you haven't yet seen in film science fiction that you'd like to see? Well, the reality is, I think when we encounter sentient aliens, they're going to be so different from anything we could have imagined. I mean, the real world has so much variety and so much weirdness. I was trying in Forgiveness to do a very non-human alien, but in a way our reach exceeded our grasp, and so the first iteration didn't work, and now we went to a second iteration that still isn't working. So we're tweaking that, but it still isn't the full realization of what I wanted to do. Hopefully, as we get more money and get a more powerful VFX team, we can do more things that are different. I like the idea. Well, John W. Campbell, the editor of Astounding, used to challenge his science fiction writers to come up with an alien that was as smart as a human but thought completely different than a human, and that's a very interesting challenge. So I'm very cognizant of all of that. But I definitely don't want to do little squiggles on the nose to be, oh, that's an alien there, or it's give me a break. Let's see. People keep talking about a Babylon 5 reboot. What are the chances, and any ideas on other shows like Stargate Atlantis or Stargate itself? Well, it came very close with Babylon 5 because the head of the CW was a big Babylon 5 fan, but then he got fired. And so then that was like, uh-oh, now we're not going to get that. Again, this is why I have my own studio, and I've done things the way I've done them because, I have complete autonomy. If Joe Straczynski had wanted to do his own Babylon 5 show, he could have, I'm sure, raised the money from his fans, but he chose not, for whatever reason, he chose not to go that way. Maybe he doesn't want to be it takes a lot to run your own studio and be at the top of all of that. But maybe he doesn't want to do that. But you know, as long as the studios and the networks have the money, the streaming platforms, if they're writing the checks, people have to dance to their tune. And so, in terms of a new Stargate reboot or a Sliders reboot or any of that, it's up to who owns it. And it invariably is the studios own those properties, and that determines when things get made. And, usually they hire the wrong people, and that's why they don't do well. Uh, let's see. Um, Yes, there was actually a video I posted on Mr. Sci-Fi that was a conglomeration of all these disaster alien invasion movies where they were edited together as if they were one film, and it was very, very fun. I really enjoyed sharing that. Um, I worked with Jerry Anderson. I did. He was. I did work with him on Space Precinct. I wrote, I think, three or four of those, and it wasn't a great show, but he seemed like a nice guy. I never met him in person, but I think we talked on the phone. But they wanted me to story edit that show, but it was clearly going down the tubes, and so I elected not to. I didn't want to move to England at that point, and but I'm glad I got to work with him. I'm a huge fan of his work, and my God, on Space Precinct, the practical effects, the the cities, the futuristic cities, and all of that stuff was just amazing. Completely different aesthetic from CG. And let's see, who would I still like the opportunity to work with? Well, it would have been fun to work with Guillermo on like a script and a film. That would have been fun, but lightning hasn't struck. At one point, he was interested in Magic Time, but life took us in different directions. Um, that would have been a lot of fun. But James Cameron, might have been fun. But again, depending on if he's a jerk or not, I don't know. I mean, I've heard differing reports on Mr. Cameron, so I don't know. And but I really don't think. I mean, there are actors I want to work with certainly, and we'll see how that goes. They have to be willing to, work in the indie film headset where it's not a big payday. But mainly I'll tell you, when I see someone who's really talented, I want to meet them. I want to get to know them. I love having talented people in my sphere, but I'm not. I mean, it'd be fun to do a series with Ron Moore. I'd enjoy that. I think he's incredibly talented. We'll see. We'll see what the future brings. Um, After Twilight, yes. Let's see, Pete. Let's see. Question: Your story outline for First Contact ended up with a huge laundry list of writers. Why so many rewrites? It was a very difficult story to nail. I mean, what I pitched was basically a planet. The Prime Directive turns off on a planet. It reaches that level of technology, and the Enterprise is sent to make first contact. And what they loved about that was essentially our guys were like, Klaatu in Day of the Earth Stood Still. We're the aliens who appear and say there's a larger universe. And so everyone loved that idea. Now, at that time, I had just come back from Thailand where we'd written and filmed a pilot for NBC. And I came down with this rare form of mononucleosis where I just had this brain fog and I was tired all the time. And so it was very interesting because I sold the story and I just wasn't up to moving forward on it at that point. I couldn't think. And then that's when Michael Piller started assigning a whole bunch of different writers on it. They were trying to find their way. It's a difficult story, surprisingly so. And then they at one point they'd done, I think, an outline, or I can't remember what the series of events was, but I finally got diagnosed. I finally got cured, and I was fine. And I contacted Michael Piller, who I only learned later was my second cousin. Oddly enough, my grandmother's name was Agnes Piller, and I said, Michael, I have this thing, and I was ill, and I'd like to have another shot at first contact. And he said, well, at writing the script. And he said, well, work up your approach and come in and pitch it, and we'll see. He said, I've never done that, but I'm open to it. So I said, sure. So I went in and I worked out the entire storyline of First Contact, and I pitched it. And he said, it's a good story and it works, but it's not the story I want to tell. And so that was the end of that. And then they, came up with the version that they did. So the initial concept was mine, but not how that story ultimately laid out. And I know that they had the planet, the guys on the planet decided, well, we're not really ready for the bigger universe. I didn't particularly like that ending because I think I mean, I would want to be part of that bigger universe. And I think that timidity, I could, the leaders saying, "Oh, we're not going to tell our populace that there's this larger universe out there." I think that's not theirs to do. It's just like this whole thing with aliens, where they're saying, "Well, there's aliens, and we recovered their craft, and there's non-human biologicals." Well, Jesus, why aren't they pursuing that and finding out about it? You know. But anyway, and Rod Serling's After Twilight, yeah, we'd shoot the script that I wrote for Twilight Zone that got cut off before we shot it, and the new Twilight Zone when they brought it back on CBS, and we'd shoot one of Rod's scripts from probably one of his Night Gallery scripts that never got made. But there's a lot of possibility there. Let's see. What did I think of Lex? Never saw enough of it to have an opinion. What's the worst disaster and alien invasion movie ever? By God, there's a lot of them. I mean, I didn't like Battleship. I didn't like Skyline. They're not the worst. God knows. I mean, you'd have to go far and wide to find the worst one. Let's see. Did you get recognition rewards for the First Contact concert? Yeah. They paid me a story fee, and I still get residuals every now and then. They're not big checks, but they're checks. I'll take what I can get. And so yeah, and again, that wasn't the one that I really regretted not being able to do the script on. Far Beyond the Stars was, because that was one where it was simply that I was producing Sliders at the time, and Ira Bear said, "If you quit your job, I'll let you do the script." And he just didn't think I had the capacity to do that script in between writing two Sliders scripts back to back, though I knew I did. So I did the outline for Far Beyond the Stars, and it followed my outline. The episode did, but in the details. But I would have loved to have done that script. But fortunately, Ira and Hans Beimler were solid writers, so they took it and ran with it, and it was great. Let's see, what's the most boring and don't disaster and alien invasion movie ever? I don't know. The most boring. If it's boring, I'll bail on it. So I do remember there was a movie called The Day Time Ended, and the filmmakers were sitting at a preview screening of it, and the last shot is where the characters look over a hill and there's this futuristic city, and they heard behind them, "Now it's going to get good," from some audience member, and they thought, "We're fucked," because that was the last shot of the movie. So oh well, that's how it goes, I guess. But pretty amusing. So but again, uh, I was very, very lucky with Ray Bradbury to get to know him, because he was someone I'd wanted as a mentor, and we were just kind of like ships that passed in the night for many years, where I'd see him at conventions or whatever, but there was never that spark that happens where suddenly something blossoms into a friendship. And then one year I just did this thing that he came across that he really liked, and he called me and he said, "We must meet." And I went to his house, and we really hit it off. And then once a month for over 10 years, I'd go to his house and we'd just sit and talk. And it was really, really a great time. I'm so glad I got to have that experience with Ray. It was one of a kind. Let's see. Far Beyond the Stars, an awesome story, Mark. Thank you. You're very welcome. I mean, I'm very, very, very proud of it, and I thought they did a spectacular job. And I was on the set when they were shooting it, and that was really, really fun. I really enjoyed that. So, but yes, because my one of my ambitions was to write to be responsible for one of the great Star Trek episodes, to be like Harlan with City on the Edge of Forever, not just to do one that was like, oh well, that was another episode where Dr. Crusher falls in love or something like that. I wanted to do something that was just really going to be where people would go, oh wow, that one. And so with Far Beyond the Stars, I got to have that, which is really wonderful. I mean, it came out as when we were sitting around the table on that lunch where we were laying the story out, me and the entire writing staff. We all knew it was going to be one of the great Star Trek episodes of all time. We knew it, and this is before it was even before even there was an outline. It was just such a powerful notion, and the fact that it was going to be overtly about race, we knew it was going to be a classic. What do you think of Jonathan Frakes directing? I liked his film First Contact, not the episode that I did, but the movie he did. That was very, very good. I know he's directing episodes of Discovery and so forth now. I think he's a competent director. I didn't like the Thunderbirds movie particularly, but he's a nice guy, and a number of the Star Trek actors have become directors. Roxanne Dawson among them, and I think more power to them. I like Frakes. I haven't gotten to know him well, but I like him, and Roxanne Dawson, I like her very much. Let's see. Any opinions on Starlost? Yeah. See, this is again where the writer should be in control, because when the writer, like Gene Roddenberry, he was at the top of the food chain on Star Trek, and Serling was on the top of the food chain on Twilight Zone. There's a reason why these shows are classics. You usually need that visionary at the top, whether it's Chris Carter with X-Files, or Joe Straczynski with Babylon 5, or Ron Moore with Battlestar Galactica. I mean, it's you need someone who's got the vision and has the power to see it through. And the problem with Starlost was that Harlan Ellison wasn't in charge of it. So, and it was done on videotape, and it was shot in Canada. There were a lot of things that made it hokey. And but Harlan won the Writers Guild Award for the script, and I think that was what won. But it was a lost opportunity. I think it could have been a much, much, much stronger show, and I'm sorry that it wasn't. But you can't always bag the tiger. Sometimes you miss, and he missed on that one. But I did. He told the story of how that thing went awry on Hour 25 years ago. And if you go to Mr. Sci-Fi, you can type in a search thing, and you can find that great story of Harlan talking about it, because it's really, really an amazing story. The Independence Day is a lot of fun. Starlost was a show from the 70s that Harlan Ellison created, and it went very much awry. Definitely listen to him telling the story of how it went wrong on Mr. Sci-Fi. You can find the audio recording, because it's from 1975. It starred Keir Delay. Not a good show. Not a good show. But that's the way it goes. So we have a few more minutes to talk and answer questions. I'll probably close it down around 6, but we will be here next Wednesday. But I mean, the thing that's so fun about all of this stuff is I get to play in such a fun playground. It's when I was a kid, I always imagined having a room that would be a spaceship, and then you'd step through a door and it'd be an alien terrain. And now I've sort of got that, and it's every bit as fun as I thought it would be. Um, uh, yeah, Independence Day. It's interesting because it came out at the same time as Mars Attacks, and they're very, very different takes. But both, really like both films. And but it's funny how sometimes you'll get like two asteroid hitting the Earth movies, or there'll be an Enthusiasm, there'll be two of the same movie at the same time. There were two movies about Truman Capote at one point, and so that's just this weird serendipity that happens. But I like Greenland. That was another asteroid hitting the Earth movie that I thought was very, very good. I thought Deep Impact missed the boat, as did Armageddon. I didn't like either of those films. Uh, but uh, but I think someone was just texting me. Um, but I think there's it's like a lot of times there's a great, like, Don't Look Up. I think is really a great film, and Idiocracy is, I think, a great film in terms of just observing how the world works and extrapolating on that. Let's see. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to talk about all this stuff. I mean, the cool part is that I grew up reading science fiction, watching science fiction. When I was a kid, I went to the movies and they'd show George Pal films, or Harryhausen films, and they were so terrific. And then, of course, in 1968, when I was a teenager, uh, 2001 came out, and that was the game changer. I mean, that was just, it was like such a different film, so spectacular in terms of design and everything. It was, you wouldn't have Star Wars without it. You wouldn't have Alien without it. It was the, uh, it just blew everyone's mind in a very, very good way. Uh, yeah, Transformers was animated before there were the Transformer movies. Um, I've never gotten into Transformers, never written for it. It's that's fine with me. I don't. The only thing I turned down, as I've said before, was I was offered, my friend Michael Reeves story edited Batman the Animated Series, and he wanted me to write one, and I turned it down because by then I was on Sliders and things like that. I wish I had written one of those, because it became one of the classic shows. But every now and then one will get away. But I don't regret it. And again, with Star Trek, the reason I want to write some of these new Star Trek shows is simply because there's so many missed opportunities. They really don't seem to know what they're doing. I mean, even when they pull off something like Strange New Worlds has possibility, but often I watch the episodes, they just miss the boat. And with Picard, I have to watch the ending of that final season of Picard. It was better, but even that was like, oh God, It's like I don't know, not really, hitting me where I live. Let's see, Twilight Zone, Centurions is much cooler than Transformers. Yes, and I wrote a bunch of those ones. Uh, well, Max Ray Trader, that's one of mine. Let's see, I have trouble with animated, no problems with Halo, but what would you recommend for an adult in terms of animation? Ghost in the Shell is really good. That's an old one. Um, what else animation have I liked? They're releasing one that Mobius designed. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks pretty interesting. Not a big fan of adult animation. It's I mean, some of the Pixar films are good. You know, um, but I'm not an animation freak. I'm not into anime. I'll watch the live action science fiction shows to see if I like them. There's a lot of them out, and most of them I don't care for. But I'm not a huge animation freak at this point. Let's see. Star Trek Lower Decks, Rick and Morty. I've heard good things about all of that. I just haven't had a chance to really get into them. That's for another time when I have time on my hands, which won't be for a little while, I don't think. But but I have heard good things about Lower Decks, and I saw a few minutes of one, and it was very funny, and the references were there, and they knew what they were doing, and yeah, so it's I mean, the fun thing about writing animation back when I was doing it was you were allowed to be funny and witty and weird. It was like they weren't paying much attention, really. I mean, you couldn't obviously have sex, you couldn't have, like, body parts flying or anything like that, but within the limitations you were given, you could actually be kind of strange. And we were all science fiction fans, big time. And it was just like the main thing that I was trying to do when I was writing animation was just have a lot of variety in what I was writing, not fall into the same plot over and over and over. Let's see. Do you think Knife Through the Veil would have been more acceptable to CBS censors with a male lead character? No, no, it was just too violent for that time frame. Now it would be nothing. That's the script I wrote for Twilight Zone that never got made, but it will get made. We'll make it when I get around to it. But I mean, I'll reach out again to the actors from Battlestar Galactica, Katie Sackhoff, and we'll see if we get it going. The worst disaster and alien invasion movie, ISS. I haven't seen it, but it did look pretty funky. There was a period there were a whole bunch of like movies set on the ISS in the last year or two, movies and TV series, and most of them were like really not strong, not good. I think somebody built an ISS set and they just had access to it. Your thoughts on the Ray Bradbury Theater series? It was weak, I didn't see. I should look at the Sound of Thunder. That's interesting. I didn't know that it was an all New Zealand crew, including Fran Walsh. So was that done as an episode of Ray Bradbury Theater? Because I know there was a movie made of that, which was actually pretty poor. Um, but the I met Fran Walsh, interestingly enough, when she and Peter Jackson were at the Santa Barbara Film Festival. I liked them. They seemed like really cool people. At one point, when Guillermo was going to direct The Hobbit, they were talking about flying me out there and having me, like, I don't know, borrow the head of the VFX department's car to get around New Zealand. I was, never happened because Guillermo decided to pull up stakes and come back to the States. So let's see. Deep Space Nine, you're the character and the writer doing the character. I'm not sure what the comment is, but we'll see what he has to say. What your point is, Clarence. We'll get there, I'm sure. But when it scrolls down, but the Ray Bradbury Theater for me was sort of a miss. It didn't have the artistry of Twilight Zone. It's like Ray is a good. He comes up with great stories, but the casting was fair, and it was sort of shot in. It was a Canadian show, and so it lacked artistry. And just it was okay, but not great. Not one of my favorites. I so wish someone of talent would do Martian Chronicles. It needs a visual poet. Guillermo could do it, though he wouldn't do it. It's not to his taste. But you need someone who really can do visually amazing, magical film. And no one's ever attempted that novel in that way. And God, I wish someone would. I was so flat-footed when they did it as a miniseries. Uh, let's see. Do you think Rendezvous with Rama will ever get made? Yeah, I mean, what's his name who did Dune is supposed to be doing it as his next film. So he's a talented guy. Seems like a really nice guy. I met him once, but yeah. I mean, I think he'll do a good job. I liked Blade Runner 2049 despite its flaws, and same with the Dune movies. I think they're good but flawed. If you have a chance, definitely check out the full cut of Dune. I think we put it up on Mr. Sci-Fi. I don't remember if it got taken down or not, but a fan named Spice Diver has done a reconstruction of David Lynch's Dune that's terrific. It's like an hour longer and just really, really a terrific film in many, 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 many ways. And so that's definitely worth checking out. It's nearly 2 a.m. here in Scotland, so I shall say good night. Thanks for your company tonight. Thank you. And, see you next time. Very nice to have you here. So let's see. We got about 9 minutes. So I can answer a few more questions. I can tell you one that got away that I'm sad about, which was the Lost Mars, which was a story derived from Ray Bradbury's Mars stories that I was going to write and produce, and my friend Michael Menken was going to direct, and couldn't get anyone to buy it, and that's really a shame. Michael Menken was one of the lead directors on Battlestar Galactica. Let's see. So, okay, Mr. Squiggle, yes, sure. And but what else can I tell you about? One of the things that's really interesting is the level of production that you can now get in television, far beyond what they used to be able to do. I mean, if you look at a show like Foundation, or For All Mankind, for that matter, or the new Star Trek shows. I mean, the level of design and the level of production and the amount of visual effects is huge. It's at the level of a feature often, and that's something we couldn't do back in the day. So there is that. It's a lot different now, and we'll see where it all leads. John Carter was good. Yes, I think so. I thought it was. I thought Disney gave up on it, and they shouldn't have. I think they should have promoted it well. And yeah, I thought it was a fine film. It wasn't one of my favorite films, but I thought it was solid, better than many, many films that were succeeding. If you haven't ever seen John Carter, check it out. My friend Ian McKay worked on three completely different productions. One was with the script by Mark Ferguson and Hawk Ostby, my friends who did The Expanse. One was from the guy who did Sky Captain. And then there was the final one that got made. And Ian told me the script that Mark Ferguson and Hawk Ostby wrote was terrific. At some point, I should get it from them and read the damn thing. But even so, it was. I thought it was a very solid film. I liked it, and I would recommend it to anyone who wants to have a nice evening watching a fun film. Let's see. Do you think we'll see SF miniseries anytime soon? I think a lot of these shows are SF, are science fiction miniseries. If you look at Foundation or some of the others, I think you've got a season of 8 episodes or 12 episodes, and they're the equivalent of miniseries nowadays. They're just called anthologies or whatever term they choose to put on them. It's funny though, because nowadays when you watch a season that's 22 episodes or 24 episodes, it seems so long. I just binge watched all of Battlestar Galactica, which was terrific and very interesting to watch again. But you'd say, Jesus, really, the season's not over yet? So so that's my how I've been changed by the media, the technology. So pretty crazy, pretty crazy. So but it just continues. I mean, I'm so glad that science fiction has become such a uh, robust art form. I mean, the fact that it really, back when I was a kid, westerns were everywhere you turned. Every network had tons of westerns, Gunsmoke and Rawhide and the Big Valley and Cimarron and Wanted Dead or Alive and so forth. And and then they all faded, and you don't have any, I don't think you have any TV shows that are westerns now, maybe once in a blue moon. But science fiction is everywhere you look. So I don't know if that'll stay the case, but I'm really glad, since it's my favorite genre, that it became the dominant one. So I'm very glad of that. And I'm also glad that movie stars can be in TV shows now. It didn't used to be that way. It was considered, like TV was where movie stars went to die, basically. It's like, oh, they get old and then they do their TV movies or whatever. But now it's totally permeable because the same companies own the networks and the studios and so forth. Let's see. Any other questions? Oh, I can. Yeah, there we go. I may not be a Cowboy Bebop. Yes, Death Note and Paranoia. I'll check those out. I'll check those out. I know there's a lot of great animation being done, and every now and then I'll go see something, but it's not where my heart lives. It just really isn't. But I'm really hoping Alien Romulus is good. It looks good, but that doesn't mean it is good. But we shall see what we shall see. And let me see where. Okay, yeah. So, but well, let me think about if there's any stories I can tell that you guys have not heard. Um, Michael Reeves, my friend Michael Reeves used to have parties at his place, and you never knew who would show up. Norman Spinrad showed up once. He was, of course, a science fiction writer who was pals with Harlan Ellison for a time. He wrote Bug Jack Barron and some other novels that got a lot of notice during that period. Any suggestion for SF colonization stories? Well, let's see. Well, the Expanse series of novels are very good. I enjoyed reading them. Let me think. What else? You know, Nothing leaps to mind. Periodically I'll read science fiction novels that I really enjoy, but when I try and like do reviews of them on Mr. Sci-Fi when they come up, I'm sure that I'll remember something. Colonization is one of the tropes of science fiction. There are a lot of people who've written it over the years, so it depends on the specific book. Let's see. Here's opinions on G.I. Joe Retaliation. Haven't seen it. Gantz Zero. Haven't seen it. Geostorm I thought was not my favorite Roland Emmerich movie. I thought it kind of missed the boat. Godzilla versus Kong. I don't even remember if I saw that one. I don't like that whole universe. And Gravity. I thought Gravity was terrific. It lost both of its lead actors. It had a completely different cast. And then George Clooney and Sandra Bullock stepped up. I thought it was a great film. Ray Bradbury, I think, had passed away by then because there should have been a lawsuit against it for ripping off one of his short stories that was very similar. And in fact, even one of the character names was the same. But I thought it was a terrific film, and I saw it in 3D, and that was quite an experience. Very, very fun. And Sandra Bullock was great, and George Clooney did a good George Clooney job, and it was well worth seeing if you haven't seen it. I'd recommend it. And I mean, there's so many good science fiction films and so many good science fiction shows. If you've never seen the original Outer Limits, I recommend that very highly. If you've never seen the hour-long Twilight Zones, there's a handful of them that are really, really good. I never saw Orphan Black, or if I did, I only saw a few minutes of it. Again, there's only so much time in the day, and God knows I've got a whole bunch of stuff to do. But they're and not Orphan Black, Black Mirror. Black Mirror, I think, is a very good show, but very depressing, very dark, and so I can only watch it in small doses because I just can't take it. I understand what it's doing and where it's going, but my gosh, but a terrific show, brilliant. So so we got about 2 more minutes. So if anyone has any final questions, anything they've wanted to ask Mr. Sci-Fi but never dared to, we can go into that right now. Or if you want to be part of my roundtable, if you want to come see my studio, let me know. My world is a pretty fun world, and I like to share it with people. And so it's pretty neat. Loved Gravity. Orbital Mechanics didn't check out. Well, it's hard. Expanse tried that too. It's like, I guess the most accurate film in those ways would be 2001 in terms of just gravity and all, and zero G and all of that. It's a challenge. Here we are in a gravity well trying to do shows that are set in space. Good luck with that one. My favorite ray gun, the phaser from Star Trek, the original phaser. You see it behind me. That's one from the original show. And then after that, I like the gun in Forbidden Planet, various other ones, but definitely the phaser is my favorite. And my favorite spacesuits are 2001 and Alien. Those are my two favorites. So let's see. Thank you. And then finally, we'll do this as the final thing. Guardians of the Galaxy, I liked. I thought it was good. Iron Sky, I thought was good. I enjoyed it. Jupiter Ascending, I thought was crazy and missed opportunity. Jurassic World, I thought was good, but but a little goes a long way with that stuff. Justice League, I thought was okay, not great, either version. And but yeah. So now we hit 6 o'clock. So we'll see you next week. If you wanna come back and tell your friends and pledge the Kickstarter campaigns. And thanks for being here. I really appreciate, guys. And if you missed any of this live stream, just it'll be on Mr. Sci-Fi under live, and you can watch it. And that's it for now. So thanks very much, guys. We'll talk again real soon. Bye.